Hello, my lovely sleepyheads, and welcome back to Boring Sleepy History. So glad you could join me tonight for another gentle journey through time. Snuggle in, find your most comfortable position, maybe a warm blanket, a soft pillow, a cup of something soothing. Let the worries of the day melt away. Let your eyelids feel heavy, your breathing slow and deep. Where in the world are you joining me from tonight? Is the sun already painting your sky gold? Or are you nestled deep in the quiet hours before dawn, just like we're about to be? Wherever you are, let's drift together. Imagine, if you will, the year 1117 A.D. The air hangs still and cool, a faint blush of rose beginning to paint the eastern sky. The streets of Rome are hushed, almost breathless. The only sounds the gentle lap of the Tiber and the distant calls of a night bird. But in a small bakery, nestled near the forum, a flicker of light dances in the darkness. A lone baker, his face etched with the lines of years spent kneading dough and tending ovens, stirs slowly to life. The scent of wood smoke and warm grain fills the air, and that's where our story begins. Let's step into his world and feel the rhythm of Roman life awaken before sunrise. The cool night air settles over the city, a gentle hush descending on the cobbled streets. Even the usual night sounds, the distant bark of a dog, the creak of a shutter, seem muted, softened by the velvety darkness. I push open the heavy bakery door, the scent of wood smoke already clinging to the air, a familiar comfort that wraps around me like a warm blanket. Inside, the oven stands dark and silent, awaiting maw of brick and stone. I strike a match, the tiny flame a defiant spark against the encroaching night. Slowly, carefully, I feed the fire, small pieces of seasoned wood at first, then larger ones as the flames begin to dance and lick at the brick. The crackling fire is a counterpoint to the quiet rhythm of my own breathing, a slow, steady beat that mirrors the slow awakening of my body. My hands, dusted with flour, feel cool at first, but the warmth from the growing fire gradually seeps into them, chasing away the chill of the night. I reach for the large bowl of dough, its weight reassuringly familiar in my hands. The flour, fine as powdered snow, still clings to my skin, a testament to countless nights like this, countless loaves kneaded and baked. The first knead is always the most deliberate. I push and pull, fold and turn, the dough resisting at first, then yielding slowly, its resistance mirroring my own reluctance to fully awaken. There's a certain meditative quality to it, this rhythmic dance of hands and dough, a silent conversation between myself and the simple ingredients. The warmth of the dough seeps into my fingertips, and the cool flour a gentle counterpoint. I remember my grandmother's hands, strong and capable, guiding mine through the same motions years ago. Her gentle instructions, the scent of her own floury aprons, the warmth of her smile. These memories flicker like the flames in the oven, briefly illuminating the quiet space of the bakery. She would always say that baking bread was a conversation between the baker, the ingredients, and the earth itself. A story told in every crumb. And tonight, I feel the echoes of that conversation. The dough, pliable now, begins to take on a new life, stretching and yielding under my hands. It's a slow process, this coaxing of the flour and water into something nourishing, something beautiful, something that will bring warmth to others, just as the fire brings warmth to my hands. The rhythm of my work is hypnotic, the repetitive motion a gentle lullaby that stills my mind and calms my heart. The night is still young, and there is much work to be done. But in this quiet moment, in the heart of the bakery, surrounded by the warmth of the oven and the smell of rising dough, I find a profound peace. The oven's warmth spread through the small bakery, a comforting embrace against the chill of the night. The dough, nestled in its oiled bowl, was rising slowly, its gentle expansion a mirror to the quiet rhythm of my own heart. Each soft puff, each subtle shift in its form felt like a quiet breath, a slow pulse in the stillness. Outside, the city had settled into a slumber. The usual nocturnal chorus of city sounds, the distant rumble of traffic, the occasional bark of a dog, had faded to a low hum, almost imperceptible. Only the quiet creak of the old wooden shutters and the faint whisper of the wind against the glass remained. The air was thick with the sweet, yeasty scent of the rising bread, mingling with the lingering aroma of wood smoke from the oven. My hands, still dusted with flour, rested on the warm wooden table. The rhythmic kneading had subsided, replaced by a quiet observation of the dough's progress, a peaceful vigil in the heart of the night. Outside, the city had settled into a slumber. The usual nocturnal chorus of city sounds, the distant rumble of traffic, the occasional bark of a dog, had faded to a low hum, almost imperceptible. Only the quiet creak of the old wooden shutters and the faint whisper of the wind remained. The air was thick with the sweet, yeasty scent of the rising bread, mingling with the lingering aroma of wood smoke from the oven. My hands, still dusted with flour, rested on the warm wooden table. The rhythmic kneading had subsided, replaced by a quiet observation of the dough's progress, a peaceful vigil in the heart of the night. Time seemed to stretch and slow, each minute unfolding with deliberate grace. The fire in the oven crackled softly, a comforting counterpoint to the silence. I found myself lost in the gentle rise and fall of the dough, a hypnotic dance of slow movement and subtle transformation. It felt like a meditation, a peaceful communion with the simple alchemy of baking. Then a movement. A subtle shift in the shadows outside the window caught my eye. A figure, dark and indistinct, emerged from the inky blackness of the alleyway. I couldn't make out any details, just a silhouette, a fleeting glimpse against the pale glow of the street lamp. For a long moment, we simply observed each other, separated by the cool glass of the bakery window. The figure remained still, almost as if hesitant, and I felt a prickle of unease, a brief disruption of the otherwise profound peace of the night. It wasn't fear exactly, more of a quiet surprise, a sudden awareness of my own isolation in the quiet of the night. The figure didn't speak, didn't approach. It simply stood there for a few moments before turning and disappearing as quietly as it had arrived, swallowed up by the darkness once more. The silence that followed was even more profound, deepened by the brief interruption. The soft crackling of the fire seemed louder, the rising dough more prominent. The solitary encounter, brief as it was, served to highlight the profound isolation, the quiet solitude of my work, a quiet affirmation of the peaceful rhythm of the night and the comforting routine of my life. I returned to my quiet vigil, watching the dough rise, the warmth of the oven a constant companion against the deepening chill of the night, a gentle reminder that even in the quietest of moments, life continues its slow, beautiful rhythm. The oven, my faithful companion, demanded attention. Its heart, a roaring fire, pulsed with a life of its own. I fed it carefully chosen pieces of wood, each one a small offering to the dance of flames. The heat, a living thing, shifted and swayed, responding to my every touch. It was a delicate balance, a conversation whispered between the wood and the fire, between me and the oven, a slow, patient choreography honed over years of practice. The scent of burning wood mingled with the earthy sweetness of the flour, a heady aroma filling the small bakery. My hands, once again dusted with the fine white powder, found their familiar rhythm. The dough, soft and yielding, responded to the pressure of my fingers, its warmth a comforting counterpoint to the heat radiating from the oven. The repetitive motion, kneading and turning, a soothing balm to the quiet intensity of the night. With each push and fold, a memory stirred. I saw myself again, a child, standing on a stool beside her. The memory wasn't sharply defined, the details blurred by time, yet the feeling remained. The warmth of her hand on mine, guiding my own clumsy efforts. The sweet aroma of baking bread enveloping us both. Her laughter, soft and low, echoed in the quiet of the bakery, a phantom sound from a time long past. It wasn't just the technique she taught me. It was the love, the care, the patience that infused every loaf. The way she felt the dough, the way she listened to the crackle of the fire, the way she savored the first bite, a quiet pride illuminating her face. That same love, that same care fueled my own hands now, guiding the dough, shaping it, nurturing it into life. The rising dough mirrored the warmth in my heart, a slow, steady growth, a testament to the enduring power of those shared moments. The fire in the oven pulsed, a steady heartbeat echoing the rhythm in my chest. The heat intensified, a comforting embrace, and I felt a deep connection to the process, to the legacy passed down, to the simple act of creation. The night outside remained silent, but within the four walls of my bakery, a vibrant life bloomed. The fire danced, the dough rose, and the memories of a shared past warmed my soul, transforming the mundane task into a profound and personal ritual. The scent of baking bread filled the air, thick and comforting, a promise of warmth and sustenance, both for body and soul. The oven, a hulking beast of brick and fire, glowed with a warm, inviting light. Its heat radiated outwards, a comforting wave washing over me as I carefully lifted the first plump loaf. The dough, once a yielding mass in my hands, now held a firm, satisfying weight. I slid the shovel beneath it, feeling the gentle give of the bread against the metal. A soft, satisfying clink echoed in the quiet bakery as it nestled into the oven's warm embrace. One by one, I carefully placed the other loaves, each a testament to hours of quiet work. The scent of baking bread, rich and comforting, filled the air, a thick, sweet perfume clinging to the walls and settling gently on my skin. It was a familiar fragrance, one I'd known since childhood, a scent that brought with it feelings of home and warmth, of family and belonging. I closed the oven door, the heat intensifying the aroma as it trapped the steam inside, and leaned against the wall. The gentle crackle of the fire was my constant companion now, a rhythmic whisper against the silence of the night. My eyes were drawn to the dancing flames, their movement hypnotic and strangely soothing. I watched them mesmerized, my thoughts drifting. I thought of the hands that would eventually hold these loaves, the faces that would be illuminated by their warmth. I imagined the families gathered around tables, sharing laughter and conversation. The bread a simple centerpiece, a unifying element. It was a quiet connection, a silent bond between me and those I would never meet, yet somehow, through my work, I felt deeply connected to their lives. This wasn't just about baking bread. It was about feeding souls, about nourishing bodies and spirits. It was about providing comfort, a feeling of homeliness and satisfaction in a world often lacking such simple things. It was a small act of kindness, a small contribution to the collective well-being of the city that slept soundly beyond my bakery walls. The hours melted away in the warmth of the oven and the gentle rhythm of the fire. The silence was not empty. It was filled with the quiet hum of my own contentment, the subtle satisfaction of a job well done. It was a deep, quiet pleasure, the kind that settled into your bones, leaving you feeling full and content, not just with food, but with the meaning of my work, with the simple act of creation. The aroma of baking bread, now stronger, intensified my sense of peaceful satisfaction. It wrapped around me like a warm blanket, soothing my weary muscles, easing my mind. The rhythmic crackle of the fire was a gentle lullaby, a hypnotic rhythm that lulled me into a state of quiet contemplation, a state where thoughts flowed freely, without pressure or urgency. And as the night deepened and the loaves slowly baked in the oven's gentle embrace, I felt a profound sense of connection, a connection to the past, to my childhood memories, to the people I served, and to the simple, rewarding rhythm of my life. The first hint of dawn crept in, a soft blush painting the eastern sky. A gentle rose color, barely perceptible at first, then deepening, spreading like a watercolor wash across the canvas of night. It reflected in the warm glow of the oven, already beginning to cool, its fiery heart slowly surrendering to the rising sun. My hands, still bearing the faint scent of flour and yeast, reached for the oven peel. The heat, though diminishing, was still intense, a lingering embrace from the heart of the night. I carefully slid the peel beneath the first loaf, its crust a deep golden brown, promising a tender crumb within. The weight of it felt reassuring, solid and comforting in my grasp. With a gentle, almost hesitant movement, born of respect for the hours of labor invested, I eased the loaf out onto the cooling rack. The sound, a soft thunk, was oddly satisfying, a final punctuation mark to the baking process. Each loaf, as I removed it, seemed to whisper of its own unique journey through the night, a testament to the fire's dance and the flour's transformation. The aroma was intense now, filling the small bakery with its rich, earthy fragrance. It was a scent I knew intimately, a familiar comfort that wrapped around me like a warm blanket. Years of breathing this smell, of working with these simple ingredients, had woven it into the very fabric of my being. The cooling racks were soon filled with rows of golden loaves, a silent testament to the night's labor. Their smooth, rounded forms were almost hypnotic, their texture a promise of both substance and softness. I carefully wrapped each one in its paper, the crinkle a subtle counterpoint to the quiet rhythm of my actions. A small, satisfying task, repeated again and again. As I gathered my baskets, the sounds of the city began to stir. Faint at first, the creak of a distant cart, the call of a bird, then gradually intensifying, transforming into a low hum of activity. The sleeping city was slowly awakening, ready to meet the day. My heart swelled with a quiet pride. These loaves, the product of a long, solitary night, were not merely bread. They were a tangible contribution, a small offering to the rhythm of life in this bustling city. They were nourishment, comfort, sustenance. And in sharing them, I felt a strange, intimate connection to the people I had yet to meet, to the many lives they would touch. Stepping out into the cool morning air, the scent of my bread mingling with the rising sun's warmth, I began my delivery route. The weight of the baskets in my hands felt light, not a burden, but a responsibility. A quiet and fulfilling one. With each doorstep I approached, a silent story of the night's work was shared. The quiet satisfaction, the long hours, the enduring warmth of the oven's embrace. And the dawn, bright now, illuminated the city, touched with the promise of a new day and the comforting smell of freshly baked bread. The last of the loaves are loaded onto my cart, the wicker groaning slightly under their weight. A faint blush of rose and gold paints the eastern sky, chasing away the lingering shadows of night. The city stirs, a low hum rising from the slumbering streets, a counterpoint to the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of my cartwheels on the cobblestones. As I wheel my cart through the awakening city, I feel a quiet sense of accomplishment settle over me. Not the grand, showy kind, but a deep, abiding satisfaction that warms me from the inside out. Each loaf, a small testament to the night's work, a silent promise of warmth and sustenance. I think of the faces I'll see, the smiles that will greet me, the simple thank yous that are more rewarding than any grand praise. My thoughts drift back to the fire, its gentle dance, the way the flames mirrored the rising of the dough. It was a perfect echo, a reminder of the natural rhythms that govern our lives, as predictable and comforting as the rising and setting of the sun. I remember the feel of the flour, so fine and soft between my fingers, a tactile memory as vivid as the smell of baking bread still clinging to my clothes. And then there's the memory of my grandmother, her hands gnarled and strong, guiding mine as I learned to knead the dough, to coax the fire into a gentle heat. Her laughter, a soft chuckle that lingers in my memory, as comforting as the warmth of the oven itself. It's not just bread I bake, it's a piece of my past, a connection to those who came before me, a legacy passed down through generations of bakers. The first rays of sunlight catch the golden crusts of the loaves, transforming them into miniature suns, each one a tiny orb of warmth and nourishment. The simple act of baking, once merely a routine, now feels like a sacred ritual, a communion between the earth, the fire, and my own hands. It's a quiet act, but it sustains a community, binds us together in a silent understanding of shared needs and simple joys. As I make my final delivery, a sense of completion washes over me. It's not just the end of my night's work, but the culmination of a cycle, a gentle return to the quiet start, the anticipation of the next night's fire, the next knead of the dough, the next dance of flames. The warmth of the oven, the memory of the fire, the smell of freshly baked bread lingering on the air. It's a comforting rhythm that anchors me, a heartbeat in the rhythm of the city's life. The city awakens with the scent of my work, and for a brief moment, I feel profoundly connected to it all. The oven glows faintly in the morning light, a silent guardian of warmth and comfort, a promise of tomorrow's bread, a testament to the enduring power of simple things. And as I walk towards home, the quiet satisfaction lingers, a deep contentment that settles into my soul, as warm and comforting as the oven's embrace. The first rays of sun, pale and hesitant, crept through the cracks in the shutters, painting faint stripes across the flour-dusted floor of my bakery. The air, still cool from the night, held the lingering scent of wood smoke and warm bread, a comforting reminder of the previous night's work. I moved with a familiar ease, my body already anticipating the rhythm of the day. The broom, a worn friend, swept the stone floor, the soft swish of bristles against the stone a quiet lullaby to the awakening day. The oven, a slumbering giant, awaited its reawakening. I added kindling carefully, small pieces of wood at first, then larger ones, feeding the hungry flames with a practiced hand. The fire caught quickly this morning, eager to dance and leap, its warmth already chasing away the lingering chill. The familiar crackle, the scent of burning wood, the rising heat, it all felt like a warm embrace, a welcome back to my familiar space. My hands, still faintly smelling of yesterday's dough, found their way to the sack of flour. The familiar weight, the soft whisper as I scooped it into the bowl, the comforting feel of it between my fingers. These were the quiet joys that shaped my days. I began to knead, the dough resisting at first, then yielding to the gentle pressure of my hands. The rhythmic motion, almost hypnotic, soothed my soul. It was a dance, an ancient conversation between human hands and Earth's bounty. As I kneaded, my thoughts drifted to the faces I'd see later that morning. The old woman who always bought 2 loaves, her smile as warm as the bread itself. The young family, their laughter echoing in my memory, their children's eyes wide with wonder as they watched me work. Each loaf, each interaction, a small thread woven into the larger tapestry of my life, a silent testament to the quiet connections forged through this simple act of baking. The rising dough pulsed beneath my hands, a silent promise of the warmth and nourishment it would soon provide. I thought of the long hours of work, the careful tending of the fire, the satisfaction that came with creating something beautiful and useful, something that would bring joy and comfort to others. It was more than just baking bread. It was creating sustenance and connection. It was keeping the rhythm of the community beating strong. The scent of the rising dough filled the air, mingling with the wood smoke and the faint sweetness of the early morning. It was a scent that carried the promise of a new day, a day filled with the quiet satisfaction of a job well done, the quiet happiness of human connection, and the simple, beautiful joy of sharing the fruits of my labor. And as the dough continued to rise, so did my anticipation for the day ahead, for the familiar faces, the friendly exchanges, and the quiet joy of being a small but essential part of this community's heart. The first light, a pale whisper against the eastern sky, found me already awake. The city still slumbered, but within the bakery a gentle hum of activity began. The air, still cool from the night, held a trace of wood smoke and the lingering sweetness of yesterday's bread. My first act, as always, was a sweeping of the floor. The rhythmic swish of the broom, the soft whisper of dust settling, a familiar melody that calmed my mind. It was a cleansing ritual, preparing the space for the day's work, a clearing away of the past to make room for the new. Then the oven. Its brick belly still held a faint warmth, a testament to the night's fire. Rekindling it was a slow, meditative process. I added kindling, carefully arranged, watching the small flames dance and catch, their light flickering in my eyes, reflecting in the warm glow of the copper pots and pans hanging from the rafters. The scent of the wood smoke mingled with the clean scent of flour, a comforting blend that always settled a quiet joy within me. It was more than just a smell, it was a promise, the promise of warmth, of nourishment, of connection. With the oven warming, I turned to the flour. The feel of it between my fingers, so fine, so soft, like powdered silk, was a tactile comfort. I measured, I sifted, I mixed. Each movement a familiar dance of skill and intuition, learned over years of practice, years of watching and helping, years of simply being present within the space of the bakery. This morning, the dough felt different, lighter perhaps, or maybe it was just me. The energy of the morning, the burgeoning anticipation of the day, had seeped into me, had somehow infused itself into the very essence of the flour and water. A subtle shift, but enough to notice, enough to feel a stirring within, an energy of community yet to be met, yet to be shared. The rhythmic kneading began, my hands working in tandem, a silent conversation between myself and the dough. The comforting rhythm calmed my thoughts, allowing space for simple observations, the gentle play of light on the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams, the quiet chirping of a bird outside the window, the reassuring solidity of the ancient wooden table beneath my hands. The first loaves rose, slow and steady, mirroring the slow, steady awakening of the city. I imagined the faces of those who would eat them, the smiles they'd bring, the warmth they'd share with family and friends. This wasn't just bread. It was a connection, a link between my hands and their hearts. As I placed the first golden loaves into the oven's embrace, I felt a familiar pride swell within. It wasn't grand, it wasn't boastful, but it was deep and sincere. A quiet acknowledgement of the work done, the skill honed, the legacy carried forward. The smell of baking bread filled the air, a sweet testament to the quiet magic that happened in this space, in the heart of the city's heart. The oven's warmth, the rising dough, the steady rhythm of my work, these were not just elements of my trade, they were parts of me, expressions of the peaceful, repetitive joy I found in the simple act of creating. And as the city slowly stirred to life around me, I was ready to share my work, to share the warmth, to share the connection. This was what made it all worthwhile. The next morning dawned, a pale gray light filtering through the grime-coated windows of the bakery. The city still slumbered, its sounds muted, a soft hum beneath the quiet thrum of my own waking. I rose, the familiar ache in my back, a gentle reminder of yesterday's labors, a quiet testament to the work my hands had done. The first task, as always, was the sweeping. The wooden broom, worn smooth with years of use, swept across the stone floor. The rhythmic swish, a counterpoint to the slow creak of the hinges as I opened the bakery door to the cool morning air. The scent of wood smoke still clung to the air, a ghostly reminder of the night's work, mingling with the fresh, crisp scent of the coming day. The oven, a slumbering giant, awaited its reawakening. I carefully added kindling to the embers, the small flames catching and licking at the dry wood with a delicate dance of light and shadow. The warmth spread slowly, a comforting caress against the chill of the morning. I could feel it seeping into my bones, chasing away the lingering coolness of sleep. The scent of burning wood, sharp and clean, filled the air, gradually being replaced by the more familiar, sweeter aroma of baking bread to come. My hands, still slightly stiff from the night, reached for the flour. The familiar weight of the sack, the fine white powder sifting through my fingers, a reassuring tactile experience. It was a familiar comfort, the feel of the flour between my fingers, a tactile poem of years of repetition. I began the kneading, the rhythmic push and pull, a meditative practice. My body moving with a practiced ease that belied the years of experience woven into every stroke. The dough, initially resistant, slowly yielded to the pressure of my hands, its warmth a comforting counterpoint to the cool morning air. Each movement was slow and deliberate, a quiet ritual performed under the watchful eye of the growing flames. The rising sun cast long shadows across the bakery floor, adding depth and a sense of quiet magic to the simple act of making bread. I thought of those who would eat this bread, the bustling market sellers, the tired workers, the families gathered around tables. Each loaf was a small act of connection, a link in the chain of daily life. It was a small offering to the city, a contribution to the shared heartbeat of the community. A simple loaf of bread, a symbol of nourishment and hope. The warmth of the oven, now steadily increasing, mirrored the growing warmth in my own heart. The anticipation of the day's work, the quiet satisfaction of contributing to the community, filled me with a gentle contentment. The cycle was complete, a quiet, repetitive symphony of fire, flour, and the unspoken connections woven into each loaf. The familiar ritual of baking brought with it the promise of connection, a silent exchange of warmth and sustenance that enriched the city, one loaf at a time. The first light touched the edges of the sky, a pale, watery wash of color that slowly deepened into the soft blush of dawn. I awoke to the familiar chill of the bakery, a coolness that clung to the stone walls and the wooden counters. The smell of wood smoke from the previous night still lingered, a pleasant, comforting scent that mixed with the faint, yeasty aroma of the remaining loaves. My feet, bare on the cold stone floor, moved instinctively, a silent dance practiced over countless mornings. I reached for the broom, its bristles stiff against my hand, and swept the floor. Each stroke was a quiet affirmation, a preparation for the day that lay ahead. The rhythmic sweep of the broom was a counterpoint to the quiet creaks of the building, the gentle sighs of the settling wood. It was a symphony of quiet sounds, a familiar lullaby that eased the transition from sleep to waking. Outside, the city began to stir, the faint sounds of movement growing steadily louder. The oven, still holding the embers of the night's fire, awaited my attention. I knelt, tending to the coals, coaxing them back to life with careful additions of kindling. The flames danced, a familiar, comforting spectacle. The warmth spread through me, chasing away the lingering chill of the morning. My hands, already remembering the feel of the flour, reached for the sacks. The familiar weight, the smooth texture of the grain. It was a sensory greeting, a silent conversation between my hands and the ingredients. The first knead was hesitant, my muscles still waking, but soon the rhythm returned. The dough yielded, resisting just enough to satisfy the need for purposeful work. The familiar, soothing comfort of the routine eased any lingering sleepiness. As the dough rose, I thought about the day ahead, the faces of the people who would soon taste the fruits of my labor. Would the old woman who always bought the sourdough smile as warmly as yesterday? Would the children's laughter follow the purchase of their sweet rolls? The thought warmed me. These quiet connections were as essential as the flour and yeast to my days. The smell of baking bread began to fill the bakery, intertwining with the cool morning air. The aroma was an invitation, a promise of warmth and sustenance for the city awakening outside my door. It was a scent that spoke of comfort, of community, of the simple, profound satisfaction that came with sharing the fruits of one's work. Soon, the golden brown loaves would emerge from the oven's embrace, ready to be shared. My heart filled with a quiet contentment, a simple joy in the cyclical nature of my days, the comforting repetition of tasks, and the quiet anticipation of connecting with the city through the warm, freshly baked bread. It was a good morning. He sounds like a pale gray light filtering through the dusty window panes of the bakery. The air, still cool from the night, carries the faintest whisper of wood smoke, a lingering memory of the previous night's fire. I rise, my body already accustomed to the rhythm of this new day, and begin my familiar routine. The sweep of the broom across the wooden floor is a familiar comfort. The soft whisper of bristles against wood, a gentle counterpoint to the quiet hum of the city beginning to stir. Dust motes dance in the weak morning light, swirling like tiny, silent dancers. Each stroke is meditative, a preparation for the day ahead, a clearing of the space, both physical and mental. Then comes the fire. The oven, still holding a whisper of warmth from the night before, awaits its rekindling. I carefully add kindling, the dry twigs crackling gently as they catch the spark from my flint. The flames rise, tentative at first, then bolder, licking at the larger pieces of wood with a quiet intensity. The orange glow warms my face, mirroring the growing warmth in my own heart. The smell of burning wood intertwines with the lingering scent of yesterday's bread, a comforting blend that signals a new beginning. I watch the fire, feeling a sense of quiet control, a mastery born from years of practice. It's a delicate dance, this tending of the flames, requiring a careful balance of air and fuel, a precise understanding of heat and time. Much like the baking itself, it's a subtle art requiring patience and intuition. My hands, still bearing the faint ghost of flour from the previous night, begin their work again. The flour, smooth and cool to the touch, whispers between my fingers, each grain a promise of the nourishment to come. The rhythmic kneading begins, a familiar comfort, the warmth of the dough a counterpoint to the cool morning air. With each fold and turn, memories surface, snippets of conversations with customers from yesterday, their smiles, their quiet gratitude. I remember the old woman who always buys 2 loaves, one for herself and one for her neighbor, a small act of kindness reflected in the warmth of the bread itself. As the dough rises, swelling like a promise of abundance, the city outside awakens. The sounds of carts rumbling, footsteps hurrying, and distant voices weave a gentle symphony, a testament to the interconnectedness of our lives. My quiet work here, in the heart of the bakery, fuels this city, one loaf at a time. The anticipation builds with each passing minute, a quiet excitement at the prospect of sharing the fruits of my labor. Soon the aroma of freshly baked bread will fill the air, a silent invitation to the community, a promise of warmth and comfort in the heart of a busy day. The thought fills me with a deep, quiet joy, a simple satisfaction that only comes from honest work and the knowledge that what I make feeds not only bodies, but also hearts. And as the first golden brown loaves emerge from the oven's embrace, I know another day has begun. The cycle continues, the rhythm of the bakery, a comforting heartbeat at the center of the awakening city. The first light of dawn, a pale wash of gray and rose, barely touched the city when I began. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, the soft whisper of straw against stone was a comforting ritual. Each stroke erased the remnants of the previous night's work, preparing the space for a new day's baking. The air, still cool, held the lingering scent of wood smoke and the sweet, yeasty fragrance of yesterday's loaves. Next came the fire. Not a roaring blaze, but a gentle coaxing of embers into life. I added kindling, small sticks that crackled and popped with a sound like quiet laughter. Slowly, steadily, the flames grew, their warmth creeping into the oven's brick heart. It was a familiar dance, this awakening of the fire, a choreography perfected over years of practice, a silent conversation between myself and the flames. Then came the flour, the canvas of my day, a mountain of white powder that filled the air with a delicate cloud. Its soft, almost silken texture cooled my slightly chapped fingertips. I scooped it generously, feeling its weight in my hands, a tangible link to the earth and the harvest that fed my community. The first hesitant kneads of the dough began, slow and deliberate. The coolness of the flour gave way to the gentle warmth of the water. The dough yielded to my touch, a resistance that felt both familiar and exciting. There was a quiet rhythm to it all, a comfortable repetition that calmed my nerves. The rhythmic kneading of the dough felt like a meditation, a silent prayer given form. It was a meditative dance between my hands and the dough, a connection to the earth and the generations of bakers who had come before me, each knead a testament to their legacy. This was not simply bread I was making. It was a connection to something deeper, something ancient and essential. As the dough began to rise, plumping gently in the warmth of the bakery, my thoughts drifted to the faces I would soon see. The old woman who always bought a loaf of rye bread, the young family with their giggling children, the weary-eyed merchant heading to market. Each face, each story was woven into the fabric of my work. The simple act of baking bread became a way of sharing quiet moments of joy. Each loaf a piece of my heart. This small act of creating bread, it nurtured their bodies and, in a way, their soul. The growing warmth of the oven was mirrored by the growing warmth in my heart. This was more than just work. It was a ritual, a sacred act that filled me with quiet contentment. The rhythmic thump of my hands against the dough, the comforting crackle of the fire, the growing aroma of the rising bread, all blended into a symphony of calm and anticipation. The city outside remained quiet for now, but it wouldn't be long before the first stirrings of life, the clatter of carts and the murmuring of voices, would signal the start of a new day. And I, the baker, would be ready, carrying the warm, fragrant bread that held the promise of nourishment, community, and the simple pleasure of shared sustenance. Soon, the bakery would overflow with the scent of baking bread, and the streets outside would fill with the sounds of life and work and laughter. The bread I baked was far more than just food. It was the heart of the community, linking us together through the warmth of shared sustenance and the comforting repetition of a shared tradition. The simple act of baking was a testament to the cyclical nature of life, to the comfort found in repetition, and to the enduring connection between a baker and their community. The familiar scrape of the broom against the worn stone floor, a sound as comforting as the first sip of warm milk on a cold morning. I move with a quiet rhythm, my body remembering the motions even before my mind fully awakens. Dust motes dance in the faint pre-dawn light filtering through the bakery window, a silent ballet accompanying the sweep of my broom. The air is still cool, carrying the lingering scent of yesterday's bread, a gentle reminder of the night's work, the night's quiet victories. Then the fire. I approach the oven, its belly dark and cold, a sleeping giant waiting to be roused. The kindling crackles softly as I lay it carefully, the scent of pine needles sharp and fresh in the quiet air. Slowly, methodically, I build the fire, small pieces at first, then larger logs, feeding the hungry maw with a practiced ease. The flames lick at the wood, growing bolder, the heat radiating outwards, warming my face, warming my hands, warming the heart of the bakery. The oven's heat is the first tangible sign of the day beginning. It's a promise, a silent declaration that the rhythm of life continues, that the city will awaken soon, hungry and waiting for the warmth and sustenance I offer. The familiar weight of the flour sack feels good on my shoulder. It's a reassuring presence. The feel of its coarse fabric against my skin is a comforting touch as I carry it toward the long wooden table. The air now is thick with the aroma of wood smoke and the faint hint of what is to come, that distinctive smell that hangs heavy and promising, the smell of baking bread. My hands, still a little stiff from sleep, dip into the flour. The cool, fine powder coats my fingers, a familiar sensation that grounds me. I begin the kneading, a slow, deliberate rhythm. Each push and fold a meditative act. The dough yields to my touch, resistant at first, then slowly giving way, its warmth seeping into my palms. It's a dance, this kneading, a quiet conversation between my hands and the unyielding mass of flour and water, a dance that I've performed countless times, a dance that speaks to the heart of this ancient craft. The rhythmic motion stills my mind, chasing away the last vestiges of sleep. It's a comforting ritual, this kneading, a connection to something larger than myself, a link to the generations of bakers who came before. I think of them, their hands working the same dough, their hearts filled with the same quiet anticipation. I think of them, their hands strong and sure, their motions as fluid and effortless as mine have now become. My thoughts drift to the faces of those who will eat my bread today, the smiles, the quiet murmur of gratitude. Today, I anticipate the small boy who always asks for an extra roll, the old woman who prefers the crust slightly crispier, the baker's family who will share a loaf for their morning meal. These small, quiet connections, these moments of shared sustenance, are what fill my heart, what make this work so deeply satisfying. The dough stretches and yields, my own breath aligning itself with the rising and falling of my movements. It's a shared rhythm, a shared breath, a silent pledge of connection, a promise of warmth and comfort shared among the community. The oven's heat intensifies, warming the rising dough, the room, and my soul. The bakery begins to fill with the wonderful smells of life and warmth. The aroma fills the air, and the rising loaves are a silent promise of sustenance, a tangible representation of my efforts, and a visible representation of connection to the city waiting to awaken. Each loaf is a small piece of my heart, a gift to the community, a testament to the simple pleasures of life and the comfort of routine, the comfort of tradition, and the comforting connection between myself and those I serve, unseen but always present. He sounds like a familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a quiet ritual that began each day, felt comforting, almost like a prayer. Each stroke raised a small cloud of dust motes, dancing in the weak morning light filtering through the grimy window panes. Outside, the city was still slumbering, a low hum of distant sounds, a prelude to the day's awakening. The oven, cold and dark, awaited my touch. I knelt before it, the cool stone a familiar presence against my knees. Slowly, carefully, I stoked the fire, adding small twigs and kindling to the embers that had been carefully banked overnight. The scent of wood smoke, sharp and clean, filled the air, mingling with the lingering sweetness of yesterday's bread. It was a comforting blend, a testament to the cyclical nature of my work. The flames caught, hesitant at first, then leaping with renewed vigor, mirroring the slow, steady awakening of my own spirit. I watched them dance and flicker, their unpredictable nature a stark contrast to the methodical routine of my baking. Yet there was a harmony there, a balance between the wildness of the fire and the precision of my craft. The flour, a soft cloud in the dim light, awaited on the table. I reached out, my fingers sinking into its familiar texture, a cool, powdery caress against my skin. It felt almost alive, possessing a subtle warmth from the residual heat of the room. The feel of the flour was reassuring, grounding. With the first hesitant kneads, the dough came alive under my hands. It was resistant at first, a firm, almost defiant mass, but gradually yielded to the rhythm of my movements. My hands worked the dough, pushing, pulling, folding. The repetitive action a meditative practice, soothing the quiet anxieties of the new day. There was a quiet satisfaction in this process, a feeling of connection to generations of bakers who had performed this same ritual. I thought of the old woman who taught me, her weathered hands guiding mine, imparting not only the techniques, but also the essence of baking, a quiet devotion to craft, and a deep respect for the simple ingredients. Her memory was a comforting presence in the bakery, as familiar as the smell of flour and yeast. As the dough grew and expanded, so too did my anticipation for the day ahead. I wasn't just making bread. I was nourishing the community, providing sustenance, and contributing to the lifeblood of the city. Each loaf was a small act of connection, a silent gesture of shared humanity, a promise of warmth and nourishment in a world that often felt cold and indifferent. The rising dough, mirroring the city's own slow awakening, filled me with a quiet joy. The rhythmic kneading, the comforting heat of the oven, the scent of baking bread. These were simple things, but in their simplicity lay a profound connection to something larger than myself, a connection to my heritage, to my community, to the endless cycle of life, death, and rebirth that the rising and falling of the sun mirrored. With each careful fold, I was not just shaping bread, but shaping a piece of the day itself. The scent of the rising dough, mingling with the wood smoke and the fresh morning air seeping in through the window, created a unique and comforting atmosphere. Today's bread would carry with it the quiet contentment of the pre-dawn hours, the comforting embrace of tradition, and the quiet hope of another day's connection to the community I served. The familiar sweep of the broom across the cool stone floor. Each stroke a whisper against the quiet of the pre-dawn bakery. Dust motes dance in the faint light filtering through the grimy window panes, tiny swirling galaxies in the stillness. The air, still cool from the night, holds a lingering scent of wood smoke and the sweet ghost of yesterday's bread. My movements are slow, deliberate, a counterpoint to the urgency of the city that is just beginning to stir beyond my walls. The rhythmic sweep, back and forth, soothes me, a gentle prelude to the day's labor. It's a familiar comfort, this quiet preparation, a meditative ritual that clears the mind and prepares the body for the long hours ahead. Next, the oven. Its dark maw, still faintly warm from last night's baking, beckons. I add kindling carefully, watching as the small flames catch, dance, and grow, their flickering light chasing away the shadows. The familiar scent of burning wood fills the air, a comforting aroma, a promise of warmth and the golden crusts to come. The fire builds steadily, a gentle, growing warmth mirroring the feeling in my own chest. I add larger pieces of wood, coaxing the flames into a steady burn, a testament to the careful balance between heat and control, a dance as precise and delicate as the kneading of the dough. This is my domain, this controlled chaos, the heart of my world. Then the flour, a fine white powder cascading from its sack into the wooden bowl, blanketing the surface in a soft, yielding expanse. My hands, still remembering the feel of yesterday's dough, dip in, their fingers sinking into the cool, smooth powder. The first hesitant kneads are gentle, almost reverent, the flour clinging to my skin, a connection to the earth, to the simple, fundamental elements that give life its sustenance. The dough comes together slowly, reluctantly at first, its resistance gradually yielding to the persistent rhythm of my hands. It's a slow conversation, a silent dialogue between my body and the raw materials, a dance of pressure and release. I feel the warmth of the dough building under my fingertips, its texture changing from coarse and stiff to smooth and pliable. This is my domain, this controlled chaos, the heart of my world. Then the flour, a fine white powder, cascading from its sack into the wooden bowl, blanketing the surface in a soft, yielding expanse. My hands, still remembering the feel of yesterday's dough, dip in, their fingers sinking into the cool, smooth powder. The first hesitant kneads are gentle, almost reverent, the flour clinging to my skin, a connection to the earth, to the simple, fundamental elements that give life its sustenance. The dough comes together slowly, reluctantly at first, its resistance gradually yielding to the persistent rhythm of my hands. It's a slow conversation, a silent dialogue between my body and the raw materials, a dance of pressure and release. I feel the warmth of the dough building under my fingertips, its texture changing from coarse and stiff to smooth and pliable. The rhythmic kneading is hypnotic, a meditative process that silences the noise of the world and allows for the quiet contemplation of the day ahead. I think of the faces that will brighten at the sight of fresh bread, the old woman across the street, the young family with their boisterous children, the weary merchant returning home after a long day. Each loaf, a small act of connection, a silent offering of comfort and nourishment, a tangible link to the community I serve, the very people whose lives intertwine with the rhythm of my oven and the cyclical nature of the seasons. As the first rays of dawn paint the eastern sky, the dough rests, soft and yielding, ready to rise. The smell of warming flour fills the air, a sweet, earthy aroma that promises warmth and sustenance. It's a simple promise, but one I hold dear, a promise I fulfill each day, one loaf at a time. The city is stirring, and soon the fragrance of freshly baked bread will be carried on the morning breeze, a subtle announcement of a new day, a new beginning. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a silent dance of dust motes in the pre-dawn light. Each stroke a gentle rhythm, a familiar comfort that settles into my bones like the warmth of the oven I'm about to awaken. The embers from last night's fire still glowed faintly, a promise of the warmth to come. I coax them back to life, adding small pieces of kindling, the soft crackle a counterpoint to the whisper of the city stirring just beyond my windows. The scent of wood smoke, sharp and clean, mingled with the lingering sweetness of yesterday's bread, a comforting blend of past and present. The oven, my faithful companion through countless nights, slowly comes to life. The bricks absorb the heat, gradually releasing it, a subtle shift in temperature I can feel even through the thick work gloves I wear. My hands, still bearing the faint ghost of yesterday's flour, reach for the sacks of grain. The smooth texture of the sack, the cool weight of the flour, the familiar sensations settle a quiet peace within me. I take a deep breath, inhaling the earthy scent, a scent that speaks of harvests past, of sun-drenched fields and patient hands. It's a connection to something ancient and enduring, something larger than myself. The first hesitant kneads of the dough. It's cool to the touch, firm but yielding under the pressure of my palms. The rhythmic motion begins, slow and deliberate. The resistance of the dough against my fingers, a gentle counterpoint to the steady beat of my heart. The rising and falling, the push and pull, a quiet ballet of flour and water, a transformation under my hands. I feel the slow, rhythmic pulse of the work, a familiar lullaby that soothes my soul. Thoughts drift to the faces of the people who will eat this bread, a diverse tapestry of lives interwoven in my simple act of baking. The old woman who buys a single loaf each morning, the young family gathering for breakfast, the busy merchant grabbing a quick bite before his workday begins. Their faces blur together, yet remain distinct in their shared need, their silent reliance on the bread that nourishes their bodies and souls. This connection, however unseen, fills me with a quiet pride, a sense of belonging to something greater than myself. The dough slowly begins to yield, its resistance becoming less firm, more pliable. With each knead, I feel a growing connection to the bread, a sense of nurturing and creation. The oven continues to warm, its heat radiating outwards, a gentle embrace. It is a comforting warmth, a warmth mirrored in my heart, a warmth that promises the fragrant loaves that will soon be ready to nourish the waiting city. As the dough takes shape, a small smile touches my lips. The rhythm of my work, the smell of flour and wood smoke, the anticipation of the coming day, these simple pleasures are enough. They are a quiet contentment, a silent song of gratitude for the simple, honest work of my hands. It's a life of quiet moments, but those moments, those rhythms, are my lifeblood. Another day begins. Another night of baking awaits. Another opportunity to share the warmth of my labor with the waiting city. The rhythmic kneading continues, a quiet symphony in the pre-dawn hours, a testament to the enduring power of simple things. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a slow, deliberate motion that roused the dust motes dancing in the pre-dawn light. Each stroke was a quiet affirmation, a gentle awakening to the rhythm of another day. The air, still cool from the night, carried the faintest scent of wood smoke, a lingering memory of the previous night's baking. The oven, my faithful companion, waited patiently. Its bricks, still warm from the embers, radiated a gentle heat that felt like a comforting embrace. I knelt before it, carefully tending the dying flames, adding small pieces of kindling until a soft, crackling fire reignited, mirroring the slow awakening of my own spirit. The dance of the flames, so familiar, brought a sense of calm. The flour, a soft, yielding cloud, waited on the wooden counter. Its delicate scent, almost sweet, tickled my nostrils. My hands, still slightly stiff from sleep, reached for it, their movements tentative at first. The first knead of the dough felt hesitant, a gentle exploration of texture and temperature. The cool, yielding mass slowly yielded to the pressure of my hands, becoming warm and pliable beneath my touch. The rhythmic push and pull, the feel of the flour dusting my fingers, this was the beginning of a familiar ritual, a daily meditation. The silence of the early morning was broken only by the soft crackle of the fire and the gentle thud of my knuckles against the rising dough. The city outside remained asleep, its hushed quiet a stark contrast to the steady rhythm of my work. Yet I felt a profound connection to it, a sense of anticipation for the moment when the aroma of fresh bread would awaken its inhabitants, drawing them into the rhythm of a new day. Memories, like wisps of flour, danced in my mind. The image of my grandmother's hands, weathered and strong, guiding mine as I learned to knead. The warmth of her smile, the pride in her eyes as she watched my clumsy attempts. These images were not vivid, but comforting, like a quiet melody playing softly in the background of my consciousness. They were a testament to the enduring legacy of this craft, a chain of bakers linking generations past, present, and future. As the dough rose, so too did my spirits. The repetitive motions of kneading were soothing, meditative, clearing my mind of any lingering remnants of yesterday's concerns. The feel of the dough, soft and yielding, became almost an extension of myself, a physical manifestation of my inner calm. With each knead, I felt a growing sense of anticipation, a quiet joy in the simple act of creation. I was not merely baking bread, I was crafting a connection to the community, feeding not only their bodies, but also their souls with the warmth and comfort of my labor. The oven's heat intensified, its warmth spreading throughout the small bakery. The first rays of dawn began to paint the sky with soft hues of pink and gold, mirroring the golden brown crust that would soon emerge from the oven's embrace. Soon, the aroma of baking bread, warm and comforting, would fill the bakery and spill out onto the street, a silent invitation to the day's awakening. The city awaited, and I, its humble baker, was ready. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a slow, deliberate motion that stirs up the dust motes dancing in the pre-dawn light. Each stroke is a quiet affirmation, a gentle waking up of the space, preparing it for the day ahead. The air, still cool from the night, carries the faint, lingering scent of yesterday's bread, a comforting memory that blends seamlessly with the anticipation of the new day's baking. The oven, a heart of stone and fire, awaits its rekindling. I approach it with a reverence born from years of tending its flames, a dance as old as time itself. The kindling crackles softly, a whispered promise of warmth and sustenance. Slowly, gently, I add small pieces of wood, coaxing the embers into life, watching the flames lick and crawl across the surface, growing stronger with each passing moment. The rhythmic whoosh of the air as I add more fuel is a counterpoint to the quiet hum of the city beginning to stir. And then the flour. A cloud of white dust rises as I scoop it into the wooden bowl, the familiar weight comforting in my hands. The first hesitant kneads of the dough, a subtle push, a gentle pull, feel almost hesitant, like waking a sleeping giant. The cool, yielding mass warms slowly beneath my fingertips, a transformation both tangible and symbolic. It's a ritual that transcends the physical act, a connection to generations of bakers who have done the same, a link stretching back through time. The dough, initially resisting, slowly yields to my touch, becoming pliable and smooth under the relentless pressure of my hands. The rhythmic motion is hypnotic, a balm to the soul. I feel the cool dough gradually giving way, its initial firmness changing to a yielding softness under the steady rhythm of my hands. It's a meditative process, a conversation between my hands and the flour, the silent exchange of energy and intent. The smells of the bakery are a comforting symphony. The subtle sweetness of the rising dough mingles with the earthy aroma of the wood smoke, creating a unique fragrance that is entirely my own, a scent that brings a smile to my lips. I am not just making bread, I am creating an atmosphere, a feeling. Each loaf is a tiny vessel of comfort, a miniature expression of love and care for the people of this city. As the dough rises, so too does the city around me. The sounds of the awakening city gradually swell. The rumble of carts, the distant shouts of vendors, and the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer. These sounds are not intrusions. They are part of the rhythm, the symphony of life that plays out around my bakery each morning. The quiet of my work serves as a counterpoint to the bustling activity, a silent force of creation amidst the city's noisy awakening. And within that rhythm, within that quiet, lies a deep sense of peace and quiet satisfaction. The first golden rays of sunlight stream through the bakery window, painting the rising dough in hues of warmth and promise. The oven's warmth radiates out, wrapping me in its gentle embrace. I feel a surge of anticipation, a quiet excitement for sharing the fruits of my labor, my simple contribution to this community that sustains me. The day has begun, and with it the promise of warm, fragrant bread to share with the waking city. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a quiet ritual that began each day, felt almost like a prayer. Dust motes danced in the weak light filtering through the grimy window panes, each one a tiny, silent witness to countless mornings just like this one. The air, still cool from the night, carried the faint scent of wood smoke and the lingering sweetness of yesterday's loaves. I moved to the oven, its brick belly still warm from the previous night's baking. The embers glowed faintly, like sleeping dragons waiting to be roused. Carefully, I added kindling, tiny twigs at first, then slivers of wood, watching the flames catch and lick at the darkness, whispering secrets only the oven and I understood. The soft crackle and hiss filled the quiet space, a comforting symphony that matched the rhythm of my own breath. With the oven's fire rekindled, a small, comforting warmth spread through the bakery. My hands, still stiff from sleep, reached for the large wooden bin of flour. The familiar weight, the smooth coolness of the grains sliding between my fingers, filled me with a quiet pleasure. A gentle sigh escaped my lips. The simple act of touching the flour was calming. It felt like a connection to the earth, to generations of bakers who had come before me. The first hesitant kneads of the dough began. The cool, smooth dough felt strangely alive in my hands. It yielded gently to my touch, its resistance a subtle conversation between my fingers and its own silent will. The rhythmic push and pull, the slow, deliberate folding of the dough were like a meditation. The scent of yeast rose, subtle at first, gradually becoming more powerful and pleasant, a comforting promise of the warmth and nourishment to come. Memories of my grandmother's hands kneading dough in a similar way years ago stirred within me. I recalled the warmth of her kitchen, the laughter, and the rich aroma of freshly baked bread that permeated her home. The same dough, the same process, but with countless differences that only time and experience had carved into these old hands and my heart. As I worked, the city outside began to stir. A distant rumble of a cart, the clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the faint cries of a street vendor. These early sounds were like notes in a symphony that grew louder with each passing moment. Soon, the bakery door would swing open, and the first customers of the day would arrive, their faces mirroring the city's hopeful awakening. But for now, it was just me, the oven, and the slowly growing dough. The rising warmth of the bread, the comforting repetition of the work, and the quiet anticipation of connecting with the community through the warm, fragrant bread, these were my constants, the things that grounded me, providing an inner peace in the growing rush of a new day. The smell of the rising dough, already so strong and appealing, was a testament to the long night and the quiet work I'd done in service of others. The feeling was simply exquisite. The simple pleasure of baking bread in the early morning quiet was my own unique sort of happiness. It was a quiet, unassuming joy that bloomed slowly, but surely, like the dough itself, rising in the warm oven, nourishing my soul and anticipating the warmth I would soon share with my community. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor. Dust motes dance in the weak pre-dawn light filtering through the grimy window panes. Each stroke is a quiet meditation, a gentle awakening of the senses. The cool stone beneath my bare feet, the scent of yesterday's lingering bread, a faint sweetness that mingles with the earthy aroma of the swept floor. It's a ritual, a silent promise to the day ahead. The oven, cold and dark, awaits. I gather kindling, small twigs and slivers of wood, remnants from yesterday's baking, carefully arranging them in the hearth. The first match flares, a tiny spark in the pre-dawn gloom, igniting the tinder. The flames catch slowly, hesitantly at first, then with a gentle sigh embrace the kindling, their warmth spreading through the chilly air. It's a comforting dance, this awakening of the oven, a familiar symphony of crackles and pops. The flour, a fine white powder, calls to my hands. I scoop a generous amount into a large wooden bowl, the familiar weight grounding me, connecting me to the generations of bakers who came before me. Water, cool and clear, follows, slowly incorporated into the flour, a gentle coaxing into submission. My fingers delve deep into the mixture, the initial resistance yielding to the rhythmic pressure of my kneading. The dough, still cool, is hesitant at first, stubborn, but gradually warms to the touch, becoming pliant and smooth under my fingertips. It's a dance of give and take, a silent conversation between my hands and the raw materials. The rising dough is a metaphor for life itself, I reflect. Slow, steady, sometimes unpredictable. Today's loaves, I imagine, will be enjoyed by the market-goers, the tired traveler pausing for sustenance, the bustling family gathering around a table. Each loaf a small bridge, connecting me, the baker, to the wider community, a silent affirmation of our shared humanity. I think of the old woman who always buys 2 loaves, one for herself, one to share with her neighbor. I think of the children who giggle as they choose their favorite rolls, plump and soft, ready to be filled with jams and jellies. I think of their smiles, their laughter, the simple joy of a freshly baked loaf. The aroma of the rising dough, yeasty and sweet, fills the small bakery. It's a heady perfume, a promise of the warm, crusty loaves to come, a comforting reminder of the purpose of my work, the quiet pleasure of creation. The fire crackles merrily in the oven, a cheerful companion in the quiet pre-dawn hours. The dough rises, slowly, steadily, mirroring the rising sun outside, the gentle awakening of the city, the anticipation of a new day. And in the rhythmic kneading, in the dance of the flames, in the rising dough, I find a deep and abiding peace, a silent connection to something larger than myself. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, a silent dance of dust motes in the pre-dawn light. The cool stone beneath my bare feet, a grounding presence before the day's warmth begins to build. It's a ritual as old as the bakery itself, this morning cleaning, a prelude to the alchemy that will soon fill the air with the scent of baking bread. The oven, a slumbering giant, awaits its awakening. I stoke the embers gently, coaxing them back to life with careful additions of kindling. The wood crackles softly, a familiar lullaby, each snap and pop a comforting promise of the warmth to come. The flames lick upwards, painting the oven's brick face with dancing shadows, a hypnotic spectacle that never fails to captivate me. The flour, a fine white dust, sits waiting in its sack, ready to transform. My hands, still bearing the faint memory of yesterday's dough, reach into the sack, their movements hesitant at first, then smoothing into a practiced rhythm. The cool silkiness of the flour against my skin is strangely grounding, a sense of calm descending as I begin the slow, deliberate process of mixing. The water, cold and pure, is added gradually, each splash a small victory over the inertia of the morning. The first hesitant kneads. The dough, initially resistant, yields slowly to the pressure of my hands, its texture changing from a coarse mix to a smooth, pliable mass. It's a testament to patience, this dance between my hands and the dough, a slow, meditative rhythm that eases the quiet of the morning into a hopeful dawn. There is a certain magic in this process, this transformation from simple ingredients into something beautiful and nourishing. I remember my grandmother's hands, strong and capable, showing me the same movements decades ago. Her laughter echoes faintly, a warmth that mingles with the rising heat of the oven. The memories are a comforting companion in the quiet hours before the city stirs. The scent of yeast begins to rise from the dough, a subtle fragrance that expands slowly, filling the air with a promise of golden brown crusts and soft, airy interiors. It is a scent that speaks of warmth and community, a subtle bridge to the people who will soon share in the fruits of my labor. I can almost feel the energy of the city beginning to awaken, its murmurs carried on the morning breeze. Soon, the sounds of carts, the shouts of vendors, and the hurried footsteps of early risers will fill the streets. But for now, it's just me, the oven, and the slowly rising dough, a sacred space of quiet creation before the day's rush takes over. The rhythmic kneading continues, each movement a testament to the quiet joy and deep satisfaction in the simple act of baking, a daily act of love shared with my community. The first rays of sunlight peek through the window, painting the bakery in hues of gold and rose. A new day, a new batch of bread, a new opportunity to share the warmth and comfort of my simple creation. The city awaits. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor. Dust motes dance in the weak morning light filtering through the grimy window panes. Each stroke is a quiet rhythm, a familiar comfort that settles over me like the cool morning air. It's a ritual, a silent greeting to the new day, a way of preparing my space, my heart, for the work ahead. The oven, cold and dark, waits patiently. I kneel before it, the familiar weight of the shovel in my hand. The wood, stacked neatly in the corner, smells of damp earth and resin. The scent is sharp and clean, cutting through the lingering sweetness of yesterday's bread. I build the fire slowly, carefully, piece by piece, coaxing the flames to life with gentle breaths. The first crackle is a small victory, a promise of warmth and the transformation to come. The air fills with the scent of wood smoke and rising heat, a comforting aroma that anchors me. The rhythmic hiss of the kindling is a soothing counterpoint to the quiet hum of the awakening city. It's a symphony I know by heart, a lullaby that has cradled me for years. The same sounds, the same scents, each day a gentle echo of the one before. The flour, piled high on the counter, awaits its turn. Its texture is familiar under my fingertips, soft, yielding, yet firm. A handful of flour, then a scoop of water. The first hesitant kneads begin. The dough resists at first, cool and unyielding, but with each gentle press, it starts to give way. It's a conversation, a silent dance between my hands and the raw ingredients. A dance I've been performing since I was a child, learning from the old woman, her hands gnarled but sure. The rising and falling of my chest, the steady rhythm of my heartbeat, mirrored in the rhythm of my kneading. This is my meditation, my quiet time. The worries of the world fall away, absorbed into the gentle repetition of my work. I'm not just making bread, I'm making connection, a link between the earth, the grain, and the community I serve. Each loaf is a small piece of my heart, offered up to the day. Thoughts drift to the faces of those who will eat this bread. A tired father, a bustling mother, children with eyes full of anticipation. I don't know their names, but I know their hunger, their need for sustenance. It is a silent connection, a bond forged in the shared humanity of simple needs. And that, more than anything, brings me a quiet peace. The first batch of dough is almost ready. It feels warm and alive under my hands, a testament to the slow, careful work. The fire crackles merrily, its warmth already reaching the edges of the bakery. I feel a surge of quiet anticipation. The scent of baking bread is soon to fill the air. Another day's work is ready to begin, and the comforting rhythm of my life will continue. The next chapter unfolds with the familiar sweep of the bakery floor. The old wooden broom, worn smooth by years of use, glides across the stone, whispering a quiet rhythm against the cool flagstones. Each stroke pushes away the dust of yesterday, leaving behind the clean scent of wood and stone, a fresh canvas for the day's work. The air is still cool, a lingering chill from the night clinging to the corners of the room. But the oven, that heart of the bakery, is already beginning to stir. I crouch before its mouth, the familiar weight of the bellows in my hands. The first hesitant puffs of air revive the embers, a gentle coaxing to life. A tiny spark catches, then another, and soon the flames are dancing, a miniature sunrise within the stone belly of the oven. The warmth spreads slowly, a comforting tide washing over me. I feel it in my bones, a deep internal sigh of contentment. This familiar ritual, this dance with the fire, is a meditation, a quiet communion between me and the ancient craft. The flour, a fine white powder, sits waiting in its sacks, whispering promises of sustenance. My hands, still bearing the faint imprint of yesterday's work, reach into the soft depths, cupping a generous handful. The texture is familiar, almost comforting. It feels cool against my skin before warming slightly from the residual heat lingering in my hands. The first hesitant kneads begin. The dough, initially stiff and resistant, yields slowly to the pressure of my fingers. It's a conversation, a back and forth between will and surrender. I feel the tension release, the flour and water becoming one, united under my touch. The rhythm is slow and steady, a lullaby of motion. Each press, each fold is a small act of creation. My thoughts drift, not far, only as far as the slow rise and fall of my breath. I remember the old woman, her hands gnarled and strong, guiding mine through the same motions years ago. Her touch is still present in the memory of my own. Her wisdom is woven into each knead. The smell of the rising dough fills the bakery, a sweet, earthy aroma that promises warmth and nourishment. The scent mingles with the wood smoke, creating a comforting fragrance that fills me with a quiet pride. This isn't just bread, it's a link to generations past, a connection to the community I serve. As the dough rises, so does my anticipation. Soon the oven will be hot enough, the loaves will be baked, and the scent of fresh bread will spread through the still sleeping city. It's a quiet promise, a simple act of giving, and it fills me with a deep sense of purpose. The rhythmic kneading continues, a comforting counterpoint to the crackling flames and the growing warmth. I continue kneading, lost in the familiar task, the rhythmic push and pull of the dough a calming counterpoint to the rising anticipation. The rising bread, the rising sun, a gentle cycle of life continuing, ever renewing itself, a testament to the enduring power of routine and the simple joy of providing for others. It is a quiet happiness, a deep contentment that settles within me, as warm and comforting as the oven itself. The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor, the dust motes dancing in the weak morning light. It was a ritual, as comforting as the rising of the sun itself. Each stroke erased the previous night's work, leaving a clean slate for the day's baking. The scent of last night's bread, faint but lingering, still clung to the wooden boards, a ghostly reminder of the warmth I'd created. Then the fire, a small, hesitant spark, coaxed from the embers that still glowed faintly in the oven's belly. I fed it small pieces of kindling, watching the flames dance and grow, their tentative flickering mirroring the uncertain start of a new day. The crackle of the wood was a familiar lullaby, a promise of warmth and the golden loaves to come. The air, still cool from the night, carried the scent of wood smoke and something else, a subtle sweetness that hinted at the day's promise. My hands, still slightly stiff from sleep, reached for the flour sack. The coarse fabric felt rough against my skin, a welcome contrast to the smooth, cool surface of the wooden countertop. The flour, soft and yielding, dusted my fingers, a silent greeting to the day's work. The first hesitant kneads of the dough were always the most difficult. The cool, yielding mass felt alien at first, resisting my touch. But with each rhythmic push and fold, the dough began to yield, its resistance becoming a gentle give and take, a conversation between my hands and the flour, water, and yeast. It was a silent dance, a slow waltz with the ingredients, each movement imbued with a quiet intention. The rhythm of kneading was a soothing mantra, a meditation on the simplicity of creation. I thought of the people who would eat this bread, the faces blurry, but the collective warmth of their anticipation palpable. I pictured the weary traveler finding solace in a warm roll, the family sharing a loaf at their morning table, the child's delighted squeal at the taste of something sweet and wholesome. The oven's heat intensified as the flames took hold. I could feel the warmth radiating through the stone, a tangible promise of the transformation to come. The rhythmic thump of my hands on the dough mirrored the steady pulse of the flames, a shared heartbeat, a harmony between the work of my hands and the ancient power of fire. I added more wood to the fire, the flames licking at the logs with a satisfying hunger. The smell of baking bread began to fill the small bakery, weaving itself into the fabric of the day, a tangible expression of the transformation taking place. It was a simple act, this baking, but it was my act, my offering to the world, a quiet symphony of flour, water, and fire. With each knead, the dough became more pliable, more yielding. It was as though the dough itself was responding to my touch, to the warmth of my hands, to the quiet energy of the rising sun. The subtle change in its texture, its growing elasticity. It was a silent conversation, a mutual understanding between baker and bread, a shared anticipation of the golden, crusty loaves to come, a silent promise of warmth and nourishment to those who would soon consume them. The rhythmic repetition of the work, the comforting familiarity of the tasks, it was all part of the slow awakening, the gradual unfolding of the day. The bread was not just bread. It was a connection, a bridge between me and the community I served, a testament to the quiet rhythm of life and to the simple, unassuming beauty of creation. The rising sun cast a warm glow over the flour-dusted countertop, and the promise of the day, warm and inviting, was palpable. The first light of dawn, a pale gray smudge on the horizon, barely touched the city yet. Inside, the bakery was still cloaked in the quiet stillness of early morning. I began, as always, the familiar sweep of the broom across the worn wooden floorboards, each stroke a soft whisper against the quiet. The scent of last night's baking, a faint ghost of sweetness and warmth, still clung to the air. Then came the oven, its brick belly still radiating a gentle warmth from the embers of the previous night's fire. I knelt before it, the cool stone a pleasant contrast against my fingertips. Carefully, reverently, I added small pieces of kindling, then larger logs, coaxing the flames back to life. The slow catch of the fire, the soft crackle as it took hold, was a familiar and comforting symphony. It was a dance as old as time, a rhythm I'd known since childhood, passed down through generations. The air filled with the scent of wood smoke, clean and sharp, mingling with the lingering sweetness of the bread. It was a comforting blend, a tangible memory of all the nights spent here, tending this oven, nurturing this flame. The warmth radiating from the bricks was a tangible comfort, chasing away the morning chill that still clung to the corners of the bakery. It was a warmth that spread inward, easing the stiffness from my bones, soothing the slumber still clinging to my mind.
Next came the flour, a familiar weight in my hands, its fine powder dusting my fingers as I sifted it, the soft whisper of its movement, a gentle counterpoint to the crackling fire. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the subtle scent. Then the dough, yielding and pliable, a warm, living thing in my grasp. The initial kneading was hesitant, almost shy, my hands reacquainting themselves with the feel of the mixture, the smooth, yielding texture under my fingertips. Each press, each fold was a slow awakening, a gentle coaxing into action of both the dough and myself. As my hands worked the dough, my thoughts drifted to the day ahead. The familiar faces of the regulars, the shy smile of the young girl who always bought a single roll, the gruff greeting of the old man who preferred his bread crusty and dark. They were all a part of this, part of the rhythm of this life, a community bound by the simple pleasure of sharing a freshly baked loaf. Each loaf was a small act of connection, a thread in the tapestry of the city's daily life. The thought brought a quiet smile to my face, a feeling of purpose and contentment. The rhythmic kneading continued, hypnotic and soothing. The rhythmic rising and falling of my chest matched the slow, steady push and pull of my hands. The warmth of the dough, the scent of flour, the gentle crackle of the fire, the quiet hum of the awakening city outside. All these elements coalesced into a single calming symphony. It was a comfortingly familiar rhythm, a soothing lullaby to ease me into the day. The flour, the fire, the dough, they were not just ingredients, but extensions of myself, my connection to this place, to this community, to this life. And as the first rays of sun finally touched the edges of the horizon, painting the sky in gentle shades of gold and rose, I knew another day was about to begin, and with it the simple, quiet joy of sharing the warmth of freshly baked bread.
The familiar sweep of the broom across the bakery floor. Dust motes dance in the weak morning light filtering through the grimy window panes. Each stroke is a quiet affirmation, a gentle beginning to the day. The air still holds the faint, lingering scent of yesterday's loaves, a comforting ghost of warmth and flour. Next, the oven, a simple task, yet a crucial one. I coax the embers back to life, adding small pieces of kindling, watching the flames catch and flicker. The gentle crackle and pop are a familiar symphony, a reassuring soundtrack to my routine. The oven is a heart, beating slowly at first, then growing stronger as the heat intensifies. My hands, still carrying the ghost of flour from the night before, dip into the large bin. The cool, smooth texture of the flour is a welcome contrast to the rising heat of the oven. I sift it slowly, the fine powder drifting down like a gentle snowfall, blanketing the table in a pristine layer of white. Then comes the water, cool, clear, reflecting the pale dawn light in its depths. Slowly, I add it to the flour, beginning the slow, intimate dance of kneading. At first, the dough resists, firm and unyielding. But with each push and pull, with each rhythmic turn, it begins to yield, becoming warmer, softer, more pliable under my hands. The feel of the dough, its elasticity, its gentle warmth, the subtle resistance of its muscles is a familiar comfort. It's a tangible connection to generations past, a whispered conversation with those who kneaded dough before me, a silent communion with the land that provided the grain. I remember my grandmother's hands, gnarled and strong, guiding mine through this same process years ago. Her touch, firm but gentle, imparted not only a skill, but a sense of calm, a deep-seated understanding of the rhythmic flow of the work, a silent language born from patience and love. That gentle wisdom still rests within the rhythm of my own hands. As I knead, I think of the faces that will greet my bread today. The old woman who buys a single loaf each morning, the young family who always share a larger one, the busy merchant hurrying to his shop, needing only a quick filling bite. Each loaf is a small act of connection, a silent offering of warmth and sustenance. The dough rises slowly, mirroring the gradual awakening of the city outside. The first sounds of the day begin to filter through the windows, the distant rumble of carts, the chattering of birds, the low hum of activity. It's a symphony of life, a reminder that my work is a vital part of the city's heartbeat, a quiet contribution to its daily rhythm. The oven glows warmly, its heat a tangible promise. The first loaves will soon be ready, their fragrant warmth a prelude to the day. I smile, a quiet, contented smile. The smell of baking bread fills the air and mingles with the cool morning air drifting in from outside, creating a perfect balance, a fresh start. The comforting repetition of these acts is almost meditative, easing any hint of lingering tiredness and filling me with a quiet sense of peace, a familiar contentment. It's a good day to bake. The familiar sweep of the bakery floor. The broom, a worn friend, moves with a rhythm as old as the building itself. Dust motes dance in the weak morning light filtering through the grimy window panes. Each stroke is a gentle awakening, a preparation not just for the day, but for myself. The air is cool, still carrying the faint scent of last night's baking, a lingering sweetness that promises the warmth to come. I turn to the oven, its brick belly dark and cool. I stoke the embers, gently at first, coaxing them back to life. The wood, seasoned and dry, catches with a soft sigh, a whisper of flame licking at the stubborn charcoal. The fire builds slowly, a patient dance between wood and air. I watch it, mesmerized, the way I always do. There's a quiet artistry to it, a delicate balance that mirrors the precision I need when kneading the dough. A small flame, mirroring the fragile hope of a new day. Then the flour, the familiar weight of the sack, the gentle rustle as I pour it onto the wooden table. Its fine dust coats my hands, a soft embrace, a comforting reminder of countless mornings just like this one. The scent is clean, earthy, a smell as constant and familiar as my own heartbeat. My hands, calloused and strong, begin their work. The first hesitant kneads. The dough, cool and yielding, resists just enough to feel purposeful, alive under my touch. It's a slow, meditative process. Each push and fold is deliberate, measured, almost ritualistic. I think of the day ahead, the faces I'll see, the familiar exchanges, a quick smile, a nod of recognition. The silent understanding between baker and customer, forged in the shared pleasure of warm, freshly baked bread. It's a simple connection, but a powerful one. A feeling of belonging, of being woven into the fabric of this community. The dough begins to yield, its resistance lessening with each knead. Its warmth increases as my hands work it, a gentle heat spreading upwards from my palms. The rhythm is hypnotic. The silence is broken only by the soft crackle of the fire and the whisper of the rising dough, a quiet conversation between the ancient elements of earth and fire, flour and water. The scent of baking bread, a promise of warmth and comfort, fills the air. It's a scent that carries me back to childhood, to the comforting smells of my own family's kitchen, and the quiet teachings of the old baker who first showed me the secrets of this ancient craft. The rhythmic kneading continues, a meditative dance that binds together past and present, effort and reward. Soon the first loaves will rise. Soon the city will awaken to the smell of fresh bread, a smell that speaks of hard work, of dedication, and of the simple joy of sharing something with others. The anticipation is palpable. The gentle warmth of the oven, the rhythmic kneading of the dough, all contribute to a feeling of quiet and confident purpose. The work isn't merely baking bread, it's nurturing the heart of the community, one loaf at a time. The last of the loaves were delivered. The early morning light, now a pale gold, painted the cobblestones a warm hue. A gentle tiredness settled over me, a comfortable weight, not like the warmth of the oven after a long night's work. I stood for a moment outside the bakery door, the scent of wood smoke and baking bread still clinging to my clothes, a familiar, comforting perfume. The city hummed around me, a low, contented murmur, the sounds of waking lives, of milk carts rumbling, of distant laughter. And in that hum I heard a quiet echo of my own rhythm, the steady beat of my work woven into the fabric of the day. My hands, still faintly dusted with flour, felt strangely light. The weight of the night's labor had lifted, leaving behind only a quiet satisfaction, a deep sense of peace. It wasn't the grand accomplishment of a king or a warrior, but it was mine, a small, essential contribution to the lives of those around me. I thought of the old woman, her kind smile as she collected her daily bread. I thought of the children, their eyes wide with anticipation, their small hands clutching the warm loaves. I thought of the captain of the guard, his gruff but grateful nod as I handed him his usual half-dozen rolls. In those small exchanges, in those quiet moments of giving and receiving, I found a connection, a sense of belonging that transcended the simple act of baking bread. The fire in the oven, now reduced to embers, glowed with a soft, warm light. It reflected in my eyes, a tiny mirror reflecting the slow, steady rhythm of my life, a life built on simple routines, on the comforting repetition of tasks, and on the quiet joy of nurturing others through the warmth of my bread. It was a humble life, perhaps, but it was mine, and in its quiet heart beat a deep and abiding contentment. The rhythmic kneading, the dance of the fire, the slow rise of the dough, these were not merely tasks, but a meditation, a prayer offered to the sun and the earth, a testament to the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Each loaf, a small offering to the world, a symbol of sustenance and connection. And as the first rays of the sun fully embraced the city, I knew with a quiet certainty that tomorrow night I would return to the comforting warmth of my oven, to the rhythmic dance of the flour, to the quiet satisfaction of baking bread under the cloak of night. The oven, still warm, seemed to hum a silent lullaby, a promise of another day, another night of quiet work.
The last of the loaves were delivered. The early morning light,
Now a pale gold painted the cobblestones a warm hue. A gentle tiredness settled over me, a comfortable weight, not unlike the warmth of the oven after a long night's work. I stood for a moment outside the bakery door, the scent of wood smoke and baking bread still clinging to my clothes, a familiar, comforting perfume. The city hummed around me, a low, contented murmur, the sounds of waking lives, of milk carts rumbling, of distant laughter. And in that hum, I heard a quiet echo of my own rhythm, the steady beat of my work woven into the fabric of the day. My hands, still faintly dusted with flour, felt strangely light. The weight of the night's labor had lifted, leaving behind only a quiet satisfaction, a deep sense of peace. It wasn't the grand accomplishment of a king or a warrior, but it was mine, a small, essential contribution to the lives of those around me. I thought of the old woman, her kind smile as she collected her daily bread. I thought of the children, their eyes wide with anticipation, their small hands clutching the warm loaves. I thought of the captain of the guard, his gruff but grateful nod as I handed him his usual half-dozen rolls. In those small exchanges, in those quiet moments of giving and receiving, I found a connection, a sense of belonging that transcended the simple act of baking bread. The fire in the oven, now reduced to embers, glowed with a soft, warm light. It reflected in my eyes, a tiny mirror reflecting the slow, steady rhythm of my life, a life built on simple routines, on the comforting repetition of tasks, and on the quiet joy of nurturing others through the warmth of my bread. It was a humble life, perhaps, but it was mine, and in its quiet heart beat a deep and abiding contentment. The rhythmic kneading, the dance of the fire, the slow rise of the dough, these were not merely tasks, but a meditation, a prayer offered to the sun and the earth, a testament to the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Each loaf, a small offering to the world, a symbol of sustenance and connection. And as the first rays of the sun fully embraced the city, I knew with a quiet certainty that tomorrow night I would return to the comforting warmth of my oven, to the rhythmic dance of the flour, to the quiet satisfaction of baking bread under the cloak of night. The oven, still warm, seemed to hum a silent lullaby, a promise of another day, another night of quiet work, another offering to the world.